Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Game of Thrones Episode 7 video. Just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. We got so many callbacks, so many awesome things happened in this episode. Toss up between Lyanna Mormont or the Blackfish as to who won the episode. The Blackfish is a total badass. He's right out of book 4. All this Jaime stuff that's happening is from his chapters during A Feast for Crows. He gets sent to Riverrun to do exactly what you were seeing on the show, to get the Blackfish out of Riverrun because it belongs to the Freys now. But he calls complete bullshit the same way Lyanna Mormont just calls bullshit on everyone. Just Northern Queen of Sass. So let's do top 10 WTF and I'll explain book changes as we go along. So here we go, number 10. The Hound is back, and they have a pre-credit sequence. They barely ever do that, so you know something special when the episode opens with a scene like this before the credits. So he actually ended up dominating a large part of the episode. The whole episode was about the journey that he's been on, like trying to become a pacifist, trying to learn a new way of life, like I'm trying to leave behind those terrible things that I've done. To the end of the episode when he realizes that he can't leave it behind. Vengeance will be swift and amazing to watch. So this isn't necessarily a book change, it's something that we expected to be revealed during Winds of Winter. We meet this group of people through Brienne's character during book 4, so all kinds of book 4 stuff happening all across the episode. But as you can see, Brienne's nowhere to be found. This was just a self-contained Hound storyline with what Ian McShane called a little peace cult here. And he's kind of a combination of Septon Meribald and the elder brother in the books. He's kind of an amalgam of both of those characters. But this is essentially the way it plays out in the books. Just the Hound is trying to convalesce and leave behind his wicked ways. My number 9 is just Ian McShane being on fire for the entire episode. He said that when he came on, it was for a one-off role, and then we found out why at the end of the episode. But just the way he jokes with the Hound, just his clever turns of phrase, he just totally nails it. How many men did it take to cut you down? 1. And it was a woman. Speaking of women, number 8, Marjorie's Oscar-worthy performance with The Faith. If she makes it out of this okay, the small council better give her a Best Actress award. But if it wasn't clear, all of this that she's talking about, reading, this whole performance that she's putting on for the High Sparrow, complete bullshit. Even pretending to not have carnal desires anymore. That was so great. Tommen's probably like, how come she won't have sex with me? Sparrow sent booty call. But did anybody think that the High Sparrow was being a little creepy? Now, I think that he was just trying to do the nice thing. Like, okay, we need an heir, so you have to have sex with him in order for that to happen. So can we make that happen? Because that's the way it's supposed to be. But also, the passage that she was reading from the book seemed kind of misogynist. Like, it was all about the proper way for a woman to calm down angry situations, angry men. So the High Sparrow's doing a more insidious version of what the cows were doing to Dany when she first ran into them. They were treating her just like complete crap. Look, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is your place in society. Of course, we know how that ended. So don't you feel like Marjorie is going to try and do the same thing to this situation? I don't know that she's going to burn the High Sparrow alive the way Dany burned the cows alive. But just because the High Sparrow seems so pious doesn't mean that he's not being a terrible person in a really insidious way. And Dan and Dave actually said something interesting after the episode about the old way versus the new way. So that's kind of what's happening in Game of Thrones. They were talking about what's going on in the north between the wildlings and the other northern lords. Like the wildlings are more willing to accept the new way of things than the northern lords are. So the same thing is kind of happening in King's Landing, and you can probably imagine it's happening in the Faith too. But getting up into the north, number 7, Lyanna Mormont, total badass, Queen of Sass. So this is the 10-year-old Lyanna Mormont, named after Lyanna Stark, who in Season 5 told Stannis to go screw himself. There's only one true Lord of the North, and his name is Stark. But she's sassing the hell out of Sansa and Jon. So they bring in Davos, who's like the little girl whisperer, and you kind of cry thinking about how he was with Shireen, how sweet that was. But he gives it to her pretty straight, tells her about the Night King. He should really be called the Night's King, but I think the show's just trying to simplify a little bit. So it's all good. She gives him some men, but everybody else just is not having it. There was so much Robb Stark trolling going on in the episode, where they go around to the other houses and they're like, yeah, I rallied to Robb Stark's banners when he called me. I was loyal, but what happened when I needed his help? He was a total asshole. So not only is the North super xenophobic, they're also kind of done with House Stark. Not that they hate Jon and Sansa, it's just that they're trying to rebuild in the wake of what happened during the War of the Five Kings. So I think when it comes time to fight the War for the Dawn, they'll be a little more willing to step in when White Walkers are on their doorstep. But for now, Jon and Sansa are shit out of luck. They're like the Bad News Bear Army. Number 6, though, is that initial talk with the wildlings where Jon's trying to win them over. They go back and forth, but it's 1-1, like the greatest moment ever. 1-1 stands up and just says, "Snow," and that's it. It's all settled. If 1-1 says you're cool, then you're cool. So this is kind of in keeping with their relationship in the books. 1-1 has this respect for Jon Snow. Jon Snow tries to protect him when at the end of book 5, he tries to save 1-1 from being stabbed by a bunch of the Night's Watch brothers. They're going to kill him. And then that's kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. They mutiny on him, stab him, and that's the last we hear of Jon Snow. But that's book 5. We know that Jon has already passed his book plot. But I feel like moments like this where 1-1 stands up for Jon and shows that he has respect for him is just acknowledging that. Just kind of like a wink to that in the books. And also what happened at Hardhome. Because all these wildlings totally saw what Jon Snow did at Hardhome. Number 5, Theon and Yara and Old Volantis. We're going to go to Meereen, and we're going to make a treaty with that queen to take back the Iron Isles. So I just love the idea of Team Daenerys versus Team Euron. So I know I just did a video last week talking about Euron Book 6 stuff. George R. R. Martin read aloud from Book 6. And the Damp Hair has visions of Euron on the Iron Throne, foreshadowing something that may come to pass. So in the books, Euron is a really big antagonist, but so far on the show, he just announced intent to go win over Daenerys. Although the way he talks about it, he's going to make her submit. And we know what happens when men try to subjugate Daenerys. They usually wind up being burned or eaten by dragons. So because it's going to take Euron so long to build those ships, and they're already there with their small force, I think that Theon and Yara will get there first. But remains to be seen what they'll do when Yara tries to make a treaty with her. But I think she'll be more receptive of Yara than she would be of Euron. But number 4, Sansa gets a raven. She doesn't look happy about it at all. So you can see the deteriorating situation with their army and Littlefinger's offer of men. Like he has a giant army at his disposal. Let me help you. But she doesn't want to have anything to do with them. But now she's like, God damn it, as she realizes she's going to have to accept his help. They will need the men of the Vale if the Bad News Bears are going to win the day. But it was really hard to pick which one I thought was the craziest out of like the top 3 to rank these. So these are almost all like a 3-way tie for number 1 WTF. But the Hound charges back in after the Brotherhood. Now those people that tried to write up and extort them, I actually thought that they would be the brave companions because they're the ones that typically terrorize the Riverlands. As we've seen them before, they've been based out of Harrenhal. Harrenhal is much closer to the Salt Pans where the Quiet Isle is, where the Hound is, so that's why I assume brave companions. But the Hound said Brotherhood, said that they follow the Red God, so whether or not we see Thoros of Myr again, this is the Brotherhood, which kind of sucks because they weren't evil people in the books. But I guess times are getting tough, whatever. I guess they needed a more compelling reason for the Hound to pick up that axe again and charge after them. But number 2, Arya gets the shit stabbed out of her by the Waif. Sure could use a Gendry right about now, as she's bleeding out walking through the streets. So because she doesn't have access to Arya's face, I'm assuming that it's not over. We'll see some kind of resolution to this. But how many of you were hoping that as she was stumbling through the streets, she would bump into someone, they would turn around, and that person would be Gendry? Just to make you feel a little bit better about all this though, George R. R. Martin confirmed that Book Arya would meet Book Gendry again. He didn't go into great detail, but they will meet again in the books. No idea if Gendry's ever going to be back on the TV show, but we do have 2 more seasons, so there's always a possibility. But if you ever wondered if she was going back to Westeros, this pretty much answered your question. She's going to try and get there as fast as possible, especially now that the Waif is after her. But number 1, of course, is Jaime versus the Blackfish. Blackfish totally won this episode. He's such a badass in the books, and they totally captured it on screen. Favorite performance, hands down. Just looking Jaime up and down, just completely destroying him. You have no honor, Kingslayer. I'm disappointed in you. The look on Jaime's face here is priceless. It's like someone ripped his dick off. Like he just doesn't know what to say. He's so crestfallen. Yeah, I guess I am pretty terrible. So as you can imagine, there's a couple different ways characters respond to stuff like that when people call them out for bullshit. So I'm expecting Jaime to double down and he's going to be confronted with Brienne. So like there'll be a big choice for Jaime to make. Is he going to be true to what I'm going to call Team Cersei? Like is he going to be a true Lannister? Or is he going to do the right thing and try and help Brienne? So if you ever wanted Jaime to have a redemptive arc, now is the time to start praying for him to make the right decision. Because if there's anything we've seen in the past, he's capable of making the right decision, but frequently does not. So this is going to go one of 2 ways, and I want to believe that he's going to find a way to help Brienne. I'm a little more hopeful when it comes to Jaime's character. Cersei, on the other hand, who I kind of left out of the video a little bit, is on the way down. As you can see, she's by herself. All of her support system has left her. Pretty much nobody in King's Landing likes her, and nobody in the Red Keep for that matter. She has no allies. She only has the mountain. And the Queen of Thorns is just laughing at her. She's like, the only pleasure I'm getting at all this is knowing that nobody cares about you. And one of the most fun things about Cersei in the books, at least in book 4, is that she slowly starts to go crazy. There's some really fun wildfire stuff that ends up happening in the books that I won't talk about in this video just in case they save it for the show. But remember, we had the brand vision of wildfire, so wildfire might come into play before the end of the series again. So just be prepared for something to blow up in your face. But let me know in the comments, what was your favorite moment from the episode, and what was your more favorite scene? Was it Lyanna Mormont, or was it the Blackfish? I'm going to go ahead and assume that most people's favorite was the Blackfish, or even seeing the Hound again. Really, it's like a three-way tie. The Hound is back, the Blackfish is so awesome, and Lyanna Mormont was just so hilarious. But we're still in the middle of Jaime Book 4 stuff. There were a couple really funny book things that they left out when he confronts Edmure Tully, and we'll have to remember to talk about baby catapulting in the Reigns of Castamere next week. There's some really funny Jaime stuff that I'm hoping that they do next week that involves Edmure's baby, a catapult, in the Reigns of Castamere. But if you guys didn't know, there's a new round of the giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. I'll be doing a Q&A later this week, a couple more bonus videos. If there's anything special you guys want me to do a bonus video about, just let me know in the comments. But overall, great episode where not a lot of like crazy big things happen, just a couple oh shit he's back moments along with payoffs like Lyanna Mormont. While you guys wait for my next video to post, you can click here for my breakdown of all of Bran's visions, and you can click here for my episode 6 video from last week. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.